Uh, Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all for being patient. We are finally getting around to episode 5 of the Broco podcast. Ian Thurber here with my man Mike McGrail. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing tonight?
Good, fantastic. I'm thankful we're finally getting to this, man. For all y'all that have been waiting, and I know we got some messages asking where this episode has been. We have unfortunately took a week off because between sicknesses and schedules and everything, it has been brutal just trying to schedule time to get more than one person to sit down and get this scheduled. But thank God we're all doing better. Schedules lined up. We're good to go. Mike and I are here tonight. Thank you all for your support and your patience tonight because it's going to be a good one tonight. We're covering imposter syndrome and ways to overcome it, recognize it, maybe some reason why people don't necessarily even have a hard time admitting that they might be struggling with imposter syndrome. Yeah, it's going to be good.
I gotta say, you put it out there like, let's do imposter syndrome, and I can think of times in my life, I can think of certain aspects. I was almost like, nah, I'm not comfortable. Like, who am I? Who am I to talk about imposter syndrome? And if that's not the best example of imposter syndrome right there, like, why not?
It is. Yeah.
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 So
That's it. So we're going to just jump right into it. We'll make
let's
it.
kick it.
Yeah, let's rock and roll. Recognizing and addressing feelings of inadequacy, I kind of have as a note to start off. First of all, I guess, what would be your definition of imposter syndrome? It sounds like it should be straightforward, but I feel like we put it out there. I put it out there on our Facebook. I added the question to a couple of men's groups, just kind of like, what to you guys is imposter syndrome and how do you guys deal with it? I got a lot of great responses, but I want to hear from you.
I personally, and you know what? People are going to listen to this, and I'm probably going to say I'm way off, but hey, you know what? This is my life. I'm living it.
That's it.
I think imposter syndrome is really when you feel that you are outperforming your potential and that you are beyond outperforming your potential, but feeling that you're not capable of living to a higher standard, not worthy. There's so much to it, and I've seen it tear friends apart. But I really think like not worthy, not capable, those are the two words that really come to mind because the people who I've seen who I would stereotype and say, hey, that's imposter syndrome, they've made it really, really far, and then they're like, "Oh God, I'm further than I should be," and all of a sudden, it's like hitting the brakes out of nowhere. You see that one guy that does a brake check on the highway for no reason. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
what happened?" It's like that.
Yeah. A lot of those are from Ohio, by the way. I'm gonna throw that in here. Around here, a lot of those just brake checking, like why? Nothing is in front of you. A lot of those cars are from Ohio. So if you're from Ohio, no offense, love you to death, but holy cow,
Yep.
down here,
Check your
respect.
imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Check yourself.
Yeah.
That's interesting, dude, because honestly, I wasn't thinking that way. So imposter syndrome, but it makes sense. Imposter syndrome can be where you're outperforming yourself and you feel like you don't deserve where you're at.
You think you're outperforming yourself
You think, yeah,
when you're performing well, and
okay.
you because of that, it's like I mean, I think the term glass ceiling is pretty well recognized. Like you can't go above that point. It's like artificially imposing a glass ceiling on yourself.
Interesting. So that would include at that point then kind of like a method of self-sabotage, you think, to try to like,
Exactly.
hmm, okay,
Exactly and absolutely. So
got
what
it.
I'd love to know what the guys said that you were talking to.
Yeah, let me pull it up here on the old Facey space. And while I do that, honestly, dude, because I was thinking just the main like trying to be someone you're not, trying to act like someone you're not, and I think maybe I didn't even consider your point of view, which is awesome, which is I love this because we have all different points of view, is just trying to be someone you're not, trying to feel like you have to be someone you're not to fit into, to a certain group or a certain niche or like the chameleons. I was a chameleon. I tried to be everything to everyone and act however the group wanted me to act in order to fit in, and that never ended well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
never ended well.
can 100% relate. Did all
Yeah.
the things. Yeah. Did some of the
Yeah.
things really well. But yeah, like
Right.
there's a balancing act there
Yeah.
and figuring out
And
who you are.
yeah, and you're always going to get found out at one end or the other. And when you do get found out, when you do start getting called out, that brings up a whole host of other issues because you don't want to get found out. That's the whole reason you were acting that way in the first place, is because you just wanted to be a part of the group or whatever and be accepted. And then being called out activates a whole bunch of feelings inside you that you don't want to confront, right? Oh, well, rejection, embarrassment, feelings like you said, maybe I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be here in the first place. So what am I doing? And it's a rough road. So I posted this to one of my men's groups that I'm a part of. So I said, you guys ever deal with imposter syndrome? How have you dealt with it? I got a whole host of awesome replies here. I'll just start at the top. I'll read a couple. It says, sometimes we feel inadequate and not capable of, but we do not have to put on a mask and hide the truth from others. We can be real and transparent, with a big dose of grace for others and ourselves. Maybe we're allowing ourselves to set our standard, and maybe we are. This one's a little bit wordy. Maybe we are allowing others to set our standard, and we should know and understand our heart. I'm assuming he means to set our own standard. That was good. One guy said, yeah, I deal with it regularly. It's become an indicator that I have an opportunity to grow or to shrink back. There is no middle ground. Imposter syndrome sticks around when you're unclear of who you are, why you're here, and whether you actually belong. The quick fix is to fake confidence, but that never lasts. The real fix is to get rooted in your identity. Know who you are in Christ so that you're not chasing validation. Then build a clear life vision so you're not questioning your decision every time doubt creeps in. And finally, align your daily actions with that identity and vision. When you live in alignment, imposter syndrome has no room to breathe. Confidence isn't about feeling ready, it's about being rooted and taking action anyway.
I like that. And
That one was good.
when you were sharing that bit about like blending in, it really is knowing who you are. And you can blend in, you can get along in different groups. There are plenty of people that do that. I can go to the firehouse one night and blend in with those guys, and then I can go out and meet with a bunch of professionals another night and fit in with those guys. Totally good. But I know who I
Yeah,
am. I know
right.
that I'm a father. I know that I'm a dad. I know where I'm rooted, and I know why I get along with those people. If I didn't, and I was just trying to blend in and just like, he's doing this, he's saying that. I think that's where that imposter syndrome begins to be apparent to others, which can be really damaging, as you were saying.
Oh yeah, dude. Lost plenty of friends, relationships, whatever over it. But yeah, it's those groups accept you because they know you. You're being you. You're being yourself around these people. And like you said, there's plenty of groups and plenty of people in this world to be like, you just be yourself, man. People are gonna be, for lack of a better term, attracted to that. You'll find your people.
That's it.
Especially with social media, they make it extremely easy to do that. But on the flip side, social media also makes it very easy to fall into that imposter syndrome and put on a facade, put on a face out there for people to see and try to fit in. Let's see a couple more. What some guys had to say. Everyone else is faking it too, or at one point had to fake it. Just be honest. You were put here for a reason. You have experiences that are personal to you, that you have strengths and others don't. So imposter syndrome is the norm. That's interesting. You have experiences that are personal to you, and you have strengths that others don't. Imposter syndrome is the norm. What do you think about that one? That one's kind of catching me up a little bit
I think it's
because I don't
common.
think it's. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm good with. Read that to me one more time. It's the
So he said,
norm.
yeah, that's what's hanging me up too. Everyone else is faking it, or at one point had to fake it. Okay, so far so good. Be honest. You were put here for a reason. Remember that you have experiences that are personal to you and you have strengths that others don't. So far, so good. And then he ends it with an imposter syndrome is the norm. I wish I would have saw this earlier and asked him more of what he meant by that.
And I want to be respectful. Somebody took the time to share that, and I think that's really insightful. But I think at the same point in time, some of the insight that I get from that is that person doesn't know exactly who they are yet either, if they think that that's the norm. Because there are a lot of men and women out there who know exactly who they are, and they're very confident in themselves. I share a little bit about myself. I don't know if I've shared this with you guys or not before. I've got 5 older sisters. I guess dad always wanted a little boy. I don't know. Like,
Kept
I'm
trying.
16. Yeah, I'm 16 years after
Oh, wow.
my youngest sister.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so like I did not know as a kid. I joke in my professional story, I joke about like, oh, I had 6 moms growing up, but legitimately, I kind of had 6 moms growing up and I had
Yeah.
one dad.
Yeah.
Well, nobody told me that some of my mannerisms were a little bit effeminate.
Mm,
because I had 6 moms growing up and I
sure.
had one dad. Like
Yeah.
at some point in time, like biology and science, obviously I've got a loving wife, I've got beautiful kids, things worked out pretty well for me. But going into the Marine Corps, people are like, "Hey, dude, you're a little bit weird," and I'm like, "What do you mean? Nobody ever told me that before." I had my group of friends, and at that point in time in my life, I probably would have said, like, yeah, everybody has their own stuff going on. There's a lot of personal growth and a lot of personal development that goes into knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for. And, sometimes there's a little bit of danger involved, and I don't want to say it's a good thing. Adrenaline is fun, for those who really know what it is. But finding the moments in life that really make it clear as to who you are and what you'll stand for, those moments are invaluable. And they're not moments to run away from because, as we're talking right now about like this very thing, that just this morning, as I was taking notes and doing my own personal development, I'm thinking, like, wow, that's a point in time in my life that I was really, really good at what I was doing. I was really good at what I was doing. Being senior decision makers for the government, how do I get that to carry over to this? Because it's almost identical. I could do the same things. So why do I not feel as confident? Why do I not feel as worthy in this aspect of my life now when before I'm briefing individuals that are going in front of the president?
Right.
You
That's
know,
yeah.
dang, at some point in time, one of them has to come up or go down. It would be a whole lot better if the one that's low goes up.
Yeah. What'd you come up with? What was the answer you found when you asked yourself that question?
Well, I have it on my notepad right here. I mean, you're going to ask me, I may
Awesome.
as well get it out. Like, if I walked in with the same swagger, and I'm don't get me wrong, I'm actually a whole lot better at this than I was a year and a half, 2 years ago. But if I walk in with the swagger that I had when I was making key decision briefs and supporting very, very important projects within the Marine Corps, there is no doubt in my mind that capable owners and entrepreneurs would be jumping at the chance to be working with me
Mm,
in what I'm doing. And like, I'm very clear on what my mission is. I know exactly how we work it. Whether you like it, you don't like it, totally, that's not my business. I'm here to help the people in my business. But being confident in that one area and approaching it with the same confidence and expertise, it's a home run.
for sure.
It's that simple. That's what I came up with. I just have to know all the work that I did to be at that level, I've already done that work here. And it truly is, again, I started with like, oh, who am I to talk about imposter syndrome? It's imposter syndrome. We have incredible people that we work with in our business. I just have to show up the way that I used to show up and make sure that they know that. It's easy.
That's it. That's all.
That's
That's
it.
all you gotta do. Show up as you, man.
That's it.
That's it. And I know for, I know for, there's some people out there, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, sounds so simple when you put it that way. Mike said it already, man. We know it's not. The growth, he said that there's got to be, that point of, or points of personal growth and development along the way as you discover who you are, as you discover who God created you to be, and that's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to grow you. You can only grow when you get uncomfortable. And so you're going to be called into that uncomfortableness to learn more about yourself, to confront the things about yourself you don't like, to change the things about yourself that you need to change. And especially as we walk closer in relationship with God and He starts, drawing things out, into the light a little bit more, it's going to suck for a little bit. It's going to be hard for a little bit. But on the other side of that is just knowing who you are, knowing your identity, who you are in Christ, like to your core, knowing this is me. I'm acting the way I was made to act. No, outside influences, don't really affect me because I know who I am. And so I can kind of brush those off is huge. Like getting to that point is such a feeling of like winning. And I'm sure you can honestly make an argument that you never fully maybe get to that point because we always should be learning, always should be growing, always should be getting uncomfortable and learning more about ourselves. But it's worth it, I think is my point to all that. It's
So
worth the
here's a
uncomfortableness.
question as you're saying that. What if you think you know who you are, but that isn't fulfilling your mission? What would be Have you ever seen somebody who thought they knew who they were and you just saw them falling all over themselves and it was obvious that something was off?
Personally, like personality wise, career wise, anything, all of
Just
it.
trying to, I'm thinking about like one or two people that I worked with that like thought they were doing absolutely great because they had the confidence, but they weren't doing great. And there are things that they were good at, and it wasn't that they were bad people, but recognizing maybe alignment is the word. That your actions line up with your purpose and your goals, and then that you have the confidence as a foundation to do that. Maybe that's something that I nominate for a future episode because I don't have an answer. But as I think about like some of those goofy guys, it's just like, man, like you didn't have imposter syndrome. Maybe it wouldn't have hurt if you did, because it would have challenged you to grow.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a thought. Anyway,
No, that's a
yeah.
good one. That made me think. No one comes to mind, but I know we had to have run into somebody. I mean, I've been in the fire service for 15 years. There are definitely people with imposter syndrome in the fire service, like without a doubt. It's probably one of our biggest downfalls is that a lot of people think they're either called to it when they're not, or they're better at it than they are, or they have to act a certain way to fit in with their crew or whatever. I've seen plenty of that across the board. I even fell into that a little bit when I first got hired with the department I work for now, being a probie and just starting to get to my personal journey where I was being challenged to grow and I was figuring out who I was really because it had taken that long for me to get to that point to be beat down enough where I was like, shoot, I got to make some changes. And it wasn't until I had said some stuff at work and they all knew that I was a Christian because I wasn't shy about it. I talk about it, whatever. But my actions didn't line up with me saying that. My words didn't line up with me saying that. And one of the guys who isn't a believer, actually, at one point, I said some stuff and it was the way I said it. I guess he just kind of looked at me and goes, well, doesn't sound very Christian of you. I was like, mm hmm, nope. Nope, nope, you're right. You got me. I was like, just hit
Falling their own
hard.
sword there a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. I was like, oh gosh. And that really helped wake me out of my own imposter syndrome. And now it's become kind of almost like a pet peeve of mine is knowing people that profess to be Christians or believers or go to church on Sundays and then see how they act throughout the week, see how they talk throughout the week, hear them talk about the things they look at or do throughout the week, and I'm just like, that doesn't line up. But little bit off topic maybe, but that's
I think that's actually like a really good example of just that. Like when you're not in alignment and it's like falling on your face. And it's painful and it sucks, but it can be that opportunity. As the one comment said, either you're going to grow or you're going to fall back. Like there's no staying stagnant. You can do one or the other,
yeah.
but you have to move.
You have to do something. Staying where you're at isn't going to do anything. And that leads me to something else one of the other guys said is fail forward with humility and integrity until I find my footing. I really like that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
I might make that a motivational quote somewhere. We'll give him credit.
Dude, it's pretty legit. Let's see. You were saying do whatever it is. Do whatever it is, scared, but do it anyway. Sometimes we have self-esteem or trauma issues that won't be solved by simply succeeding in the face of fear, but there are resources for that as well. He said he got the quote from a book. He hasn't told me what book yet, but I'm going to find out.
That sounds familiar. And I'll tell you, like, we all have, man, I don't know anybody on this earth that doesn't have a little bit of drama, that hasn't been through something, and it's so easy to look in the mirror and say, man, I've got it hard. I had to overcome this, that, and the other. But there are so many other people out there that are taking a look at whatever hard it was that they had to overcome and saying, that's why I have to beat and be better and do the things. So it's not imposter syndrome. It's actually overcoming and accelerating and achieving um, those.
So you would say that would be a way to kind of work through imposter syndrome and build that confidence is just through action of self-improvement, exploration, diving deep into who you are, taking those steps to get uncomfortable to do the work.
You have to do it. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. You have to be willing to accept that maybe you're not perfect.
Shocker.
Maybe your mom told you for your entire life that you were, and all of a sudden somebody's telling you that you're not. And you know what? Like, that's not the end of the world. Sky isn't falling. You wake up in the morning, you got another shot, but you have to do the work. And I'll tell you, one of the best things that I have found for recognizing where you're confident with yourself is, when are you truly happy? What is it that you're doing? Who are you surrounded by? And if you're not surrounded by people that make you happy, find other people. Life is too short to be unhappy. But when you figure out what makes you feel good, that you can go home at the end of the day and money isn't on your mind, the little burdens aren't on your mind. You just feel satisfied. And there's a fulfillment to that. You mentioned being Christian, and I'm not the Christian that I would like to aspire to be, but there are times where just recognizing, you know what, I think this is where I was meant to be right now. That's what more could one want? Feel that fulfillment of, I think this is where I'm supposed. They're, driving down the road and there's a woman laying in the middle of the road having a heart attack. That's where I'm supposed to be right now. It could have happened to anybody. I could have left 5 minutes earlier. Anything could have happened, but the training lined up, the timing lined up, everything lined up. And then all of a sudden the crew pulls in, the EMS crew, and it's a paid crew that I'm friends with, even though they live in a totally different area, and they're covering for, little
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
that feels like alignment. And so doing those things, my experience, my opinion, maybe I didn't define imposter syndrome well enough, I don't know. But again, this is my life. My opinion, when you feel fulfilled, it's hard to be fulfilled and also have imposter syndrome.
I like that. Yeah, because I mean, if you're fulfilled, then you know who you are. There's a peace that comes with that, knowing who you are and where you're supposed to be. That's good. I like that. I like that. Why? So why do you think so many men today struggle with imposter syndrome? Like we got a lot of
God,
responses, and that was just off of my post. I know John put it in another group too, and he had I think over 200 comments on the group he put it in. So obviously this is something guys struggle with a lot. Why do you think this is such an issue for us? Because I mean, you think of it like I think like back in the 1920s. Like even back in the 90s, obviously they'd probably still deal with imposter syndrome, but I mean, maybe even not 1920s, not even that long ago. We'll say maybe even just 50 years ago. Like it was very evident if you were a guy, kind of what your purpose was, what your responsibility was, who you are as a provider, you know, family man, whatever. It was pretty clearly lined out. Now, whether they dealt personally with imposter issues or whatever, obviously that was probably still a thing, but it was probably more clearly lined out than it is today. So what do you think has contributed to the uptick? And we're not talking about imposters like in Among Us. This is legit like imposter syndrome. We're not playing a game. I'm going to throw that out there because my son plays Among Us. So I know if he hears this, he's going to be like, oh, it's sus. I'm like, no, dude, wrong one. Wrong.
you know, hmm, I, speculation. I'd love your thoughts, but maybe we need some single guys on here. And the reason I say that is because I can't help but think of dating apps that you're swiping one way or another, and you have to fit a certain mold just to get contact, or social media. I think there are a lot of men out there who are very confident in who they are. They know who they are. They don't need to be told who they are. But I think there are a lot of men out there that might be lacking that example as well, and they're looking. And when you're looking, that's a very easy pitfall. I think it's confusing. I think with all the media, I think with all the movies, I mean, you can't watch a TV show that doesn't have some type of underlying hidden message in there. So where are our examples? And you mentioned you started out in the 1920s. I immediately go back to my grandfather, who at 13 years old, 14 years old, took his family living in the New Mexican territory. Grandpa was born in 1905, 1906. Again, much later in life. We already
Sure.
went over that part of the story. Like, Grandpa took his siblings and got them out of Dodge because they were being abused by either his dad or his grandfather, I don't remember which. That was just what it meant to be responsible. That was his job as a young teenager. He was the man of the family. And I don't think we have that definition. I don't think we know what we need, and part of that is probably because we have so many options, we have so much influence, and it just leaves so much room for indecision. If you don't know exactly who you are and why you're getting up in the morning, you're going to get sucked into something.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, man. And going back to like being young and not having influence or whatever, this society is plagued with broken households, fatherless households. Now I'm gonna come right out and say it, freaking deadbeat dads.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's a plague on our nation, man. And I'm sure you see it all the time. I see it every time I go to work. I see it on the calls we run, and these kids are growing up. It's proven time and time again that a father in the household just changes the dynamic of everything. Obviously a present father, right? A loving father, but even one that's, okay at best can completely change the trajectory of the children that live in it because at least on some level they're watching him and they're learning from him, right? They're kind of figuring things out. They can maybe go to him to ask some questions. And in today's society, man, there's so many houses. I grew up in a broken household. I contribute that to one of the reasons that I tried to look for fulfillment in everything that I could, and anything else and everyone else. And these kids are growing up without leadership, without guidance, and no knocking on the single moms out there who are legit trying to fulfill both roles because A, you should have never been in that situation to begin with, and B, you're absolutely rocking it because my mom raised three boys by herself and she did the best she could and she's awesome. And but talking about, the kids that are growing up without a father and with a mother who may be kind of not knowing how to handle it, trying so hard to maybe be a dad when she's not, that maybe she's overbearing and kind of pushing them away. And that's where it starts. I say all that to be like kind of that's where it starts in today's society because then you grow up like what you said with the influence of social media, TV, probably less than healthy social circles, of people who are saying all sorts of things about how to fit in and how to make it and what you got to do to get on in life. A lot of those were raised in the same situation, so they got their unhealthy views and patterns that they're passing down to the young kids, and it breaks my heart, man.
I kind of wonder, and maybe this is something that if listeners in the comments want to leave a note, I kind of wonder if we're seeing a dramatic increase in imposter syndrome just because of all that. Because thinking back to having a dad who was born in the 30s, there was never a question as to who he was. He never knew. Looking at some of the younger individuals that, mentoring in the fire department and meeting them through the community and seeing them grow and trying to fit in. And I don't want to say we all did that because that's going back to, but that's not uncommon. At what age did it go away? By the time an individual was a father, was that still a thing? You know, back in the 70s, was it that everybody was just hanging out at the neighborhood bar? I don't know, but I'd be really curious as to what the opinions are on like, are we now seeing an increase in imposter syndrome because of social media, online dating, emasculation, whatever it
Right.
may be?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find your way as a man when the world's telling you that you can be whatever the heck you want.
No, but
I
don't be a
mean,
man.
but don't
Yeah,
be man. Yeah, and then if you're a man, then you're sexist and misogynistic and whatever else they like to label you as.
yeah.
God forbid you actually feel like the person you're created to be. That's wrong. So yeah, it's a no wonder we're freaking screwed up, dude.
This is therapeutic. I appreciate
This is
this.
it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it, dude.
yeah.
I love
We'll figure it all out.
it. Give us 40 minutes, we got it, no matter what.
No doubt.
We'll talk it out. So, man, that's good, dude. So we kind of hit on a couple of them, or a couple thoughts just kind of throughout our conversation, but maybe to end it off, we can just kind of focus on specific ways or strategies that either we've seen or something that's helped us kind of deal with it and got through it. and kind of end on that note to kind of offer any help or advice or guidance to anyone who is struggling, because so many of us have and are struggling.
I know I get it. I think I qualify as an old man now. I gotta stop in and see if I can go to Golden Corral at senior hour since my birthday. Truly personal development. I think the one thing as you get older that you realize nobody else is going to pay your bills for you. If they're not in your bed with you when you go to bed at night, in the morning, if they're not up above watching over you with the book that tells you how to live, or if you didn't make them, then chances are the opinion really doesn't matter all that much. You know, we have a few people in this world that we should be serving first. We got to take care of ourselves. And then taking care of our neighbors. But if we do it in the right order, we'll know who we are. We'll find fulfillment. We'll have the personal growth, which I personally, John Maxwell, love John Maxwell.
Yes, yes.
Simon Sinek, love him. Les Brown, find who speaks to you and challenges you to be better and just go down that rabbit hole. And when you get to the end, pick up another book. But that for me has been huge. And then find the people that inspire you to be better.
You got to, because that goes back to where we said you gotta make movement. You gotta move one way or another. You can't just stay where you're at. And honestly, who wants to move backwards? Find people who challenge you and push you to be better. John Maxwell is freaking awesome. I'm actually going through a life coaching program right now with one of his certified coaches, and it's been already, and we like
Love
just
it.
started. Yeah, it's been
Love it.
insane. But I love that, man. You do have to take all those steps. And I like that. If it's not your family that you spend every waking moment with, whenever you're at home from work, or for those of us that have the blessing of working from home, being there around them, quite frankly, no one else's opinion really does matter. you know um, Ultimately, God's opinion matters even more than all of that. And once you get that relationship with God right, and once you dive into His Word to find out exactly who your identity is in Christ, then that opens up so much peace and understanding to who you are already. Now, obviously, if we got stuff to work through, like it did for me, and Mike mentioned it too, it's going to bring out things that you need to change, right? It's going to challenge you, it's going to grow you. But man, the ultimate authority is God, and that should ultimately be the only one we should be concerned about, His opinion. And He's very, very straightforward and with his opinion in the Bible, in the books that he left behind for us, or that he inspired for us. Yeah, I guess he didn't leave it behind. But so my recommendation, on top of everything that Mike just said, because I think he nailed it, is to dive into the Word. And if you have trouble studying it, or have trouble understanding it, like Mike said, find someone that that you trust, that you like their energy, that you connect with their energy with, and ask them. Find a mentor. I'm a solid believer that every dude needs a mentor. I don't care where you are at in your life. You need a mentor. You need someone who's beyond where you're at, who's been to where you want to go, who can give you that insight, and that I don't know what I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying. That stuff. All the stuff that comes with it. I don't know.
They can inspire
I
growth.
literally just
Yeah.
went boop and shut off.
They can smack you around when you need it, but they can inspire you to be the best version of yourself too.
That's
And
it.
that's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all, man.
You know.
Every
Yeah.
guy needs that. So if you're struggling with that, guys, hopefully that's a couple, decent tips to get you started. If you got any questions at all, if you're struggling, you need some help, man, we are always here to reach out to. Again, we don't profess to have all the answers, but between the four of us that run this thing, and Mike and I especially, I think you all heard from us tonight, we've been through quite a bit of the same thing. And so whatever insight, whatever help, whatever prayer we can give you guys, man, we're here for you. And we want to make sure that we are an open book, in that sense, that if you guys are struggling with anything that we're talking about, any of these topics, that you feel free to comment, message us, whatever, and we will either help you out as much as we can, and or at least point you in the right direction of people that can. So anything you want to say before we close it out, bud?
I appreciate the invite to be on tonight, man. I tell you that. That went a whole lot deeper than I thought. I hope it all makes sense. And I like your recommendation. Open up the Bible. I need to do that more. I'm gonna take that away tonight.
I'm speaking to myself too, bro. It's huge. It's a cornerstone. So
Good
all
stuff.
right,
All
guys.
right.
I appreciate it, y'all. Thanks for listening in. Episode 5 is done. A week late, but we're done. And you'll find it on YouTube, Spotify. Please like and follow, subscribe. It really helps us with those algorithms that are always running their little, I don't know, algorithmy things and trying to make sure that we get seen. So we really appreciate the support. But I appreciate y'all. Have a good night.